Aaron Rodgers, I talked about this on Fox News this morning on Fox and Friends and with Brian Kilmeade. And Aaron Rodgers went on and said that he still feels like he is treated as a villain over his decision on the COVID shot. And I think that may be true, but I think that is fading very rapidly as more and more people become aware of how unnecessary the COVID shot was for young, healthy athletes in particular. It becomes harder and harder to justify that all of these guys were forced to get the COVID shot. And so as we continue to follow this and track it going forward, to me, the biggest storyline out here is that Aaron Rodgers is going to become more of a hero going forward. The biggest challenge that we have with COVID in general, and I'm going to talk about this with Joe Scarborough and his idiocy, is that lots of people out there refuse to admit that they were wrong about the COVID shot. Not only because of the COVID shot, but because in order to admit that they were wrong about the COVID shot, they would also have to acknowledge that all of the people that they have spent years ridiculing for refusing to get the COVID shot, that all those people were actually right. And that is a huge part of the story right now. That's why Joe Scarborough is out there on his morning television show saying that anyone out there who is criticizing him for saying, oh, I got COVID after 3 shots, but if I'd gotten the 4th shot, I would have been fine, is a moron. I think that what Joe Scarborough can't acknowledge and isn't willing to recognize is that he was 100% wrong on the COVID shot. And so he supported the Joe Biden vaccine mandate. He supported all the people getting fired. And now he's in the back of his mind suddenly realizing, wait a minute, the COVID shot doesn't work. And I'm actually so dumb when it comes to looking at data that I went on my national television show and argued that the reason I got COVID was because I'd only gotten 3 COVID shots instead of 4. And, you know, the cognitive dissonance is so powerful that Joe Scarborough, who used to represent one of the greatest places in the United States, the panhandle of Florida. And do you know, I guarantee there are a lot of people who used to vote for Joe Scarborough that didn't get the COVID shot, and they've never been happier. I didn't get the COVID shot. It wasn't because I was like anti-vax, because I looked at the data and I said, I've already had COVID twice. Why in the world would I go out and get another COVID shot when the natural immunity data was quite strong? And the idea that there was ever a mandate, I thought was crazy. And I have never been happier. Every single day, I'm happier that I made the choice not to get the COVID shot and that I did not allow my young children to get the COVID shot either. Because I know there are a lot of people out there, many of them even blue checks, some of them even like Joe Scarborough, who make a living in media, that are desperately still trying to argue in favor of the COVID shot, that in the back of their minds know that they are imbeciles, that they are morons, and that they have shifted the argument they made. Because on his own television program back in early 2021, Joe Scarborough came out and said, if you get the COVID shot, you'll never get COVID and you won't spread it to anyone else. And that's why we have to have mandates. And now both of those things are 100% untrue. And even Scarborough himself, after getting 3 COVID shots, has now gotten COVID, and he got it seriously, he said. And he said, well, if I had a 4th shot, it wouldn't have happened. No. These COVID booster shots work for very small amounts of time, just a few weeks, really, a month or 2 at most. And the new data that is continuing to come out reflects that the more COVID shots, actually, the more likely you are to get COVID. So the true scientific evidence is the exact opposite of what Joe Scarborough is telling all of his audience. And I just don't know if he's not smart enough to know the truth or if he is willfully misleading them because he knows the truth, but he refuses to acknowledge that all the red state rubes, the people that he used to represent who lived down on the Florida Gulf Coast, that they were right not to get the COVID shot, and him, as an elite New York journalist, was 100% wrong. You're a moron. You should be embarrassed and ashamed of your idiocy, Joe Scarborough. Every time you open your mouth, you just make the argument more clear of how wrong you were. Alec Baldwin is set to star in a continuation of the movie Rust. And this is the movie that he was filming when he shot and killed the woman on the set. He's been charged with 2 counts of involuntary homicide, one of which would lead to 5 years imprisonment, the other of which would lead to 18 months imprisonment in the event that he was convicted. This is crazy to me. They're going to finish the movie. Alec Baldwin has been charged with 2 different counts of involuntary homicide, but they are now going to go back, even after he shot and killed someone on this film, and finish making it. Now, look, I'm not in favor of cancel culture, but I think it's not crazy that if you kill someone on a movie, maybe you shouldn't come back and finish filming the movie. When you consider how many guys have got canceled for allegations of sexual harassment, just allegations, not necessarily any improprieties at all, and then Alec Baldwin gets to continue and just go out and finish filming Rust. And this doesn't even count. My wife's all fired up about the fact that he is dating a woman who is named Hillary from Massachusetts and has changed her name to Hilaria and now pretends that she's Spanish instead of born and raised in America. And that the whole Baldwin crime family is just a total joke and an absolute mess. And I kind of agree with her on that. But this is wild, even for Hollywood standards, that Alec Baldwin showing up and finishing the filming of Rust.